Good morning, Leah Shaw here. So I wanted to talk today about what happens when a neighbor encroaches onto your land. So something very strange has happened. So this is the picture of my property. So what has happened over the last 2 years of clearing and a hurricane and some big trees coming down on this particular property line here, what's happened over time is all of these markers, and I think there's 12 of them total, most of them have disappeared. They weren't really permanent iron in the ground markers like we do in Canada. They were much more temporary. So there's a few markers that are still there, but most of them are missing. And the most important ones to me that were missing were in this weird little triangle here. So I had no idea where on my property this triangle was. And we're at the point now where I'm ready to start actually digging a trench that's going to be the foundation trench for the concrete wall. And it's a massive wall. I mean, the wall is going to go up. This is the front of the property, so it will not be enclosed. There'll be a store in the front here. Then there'll be a dividing wall that'll be halfway across, and then there'll be a house here. So there'll be an enclosing wall down this side of the property, an enclosing wall down this side, of course the dividing wall, and then there'll be walls around this little triangle. There'll be a huge opening at the little tiny street at the back here for an entry, for a driveway, and then of course the other side. So it's a lot of wall, and I needed to make sure that we were putting it in the right place. So I called the surveyor that did the original survey to come back and just remark. Specifically, I just needed him to remark these sort of 4 points at the top. When he did, much to my surprise, was that this particular marker especially was literally in the middle of this road. So this is a road that was created by the developer, and this is another lot that has been sold. I've since found out, to a couple from Florida. So this property here had already built their enclosing wall. So I just want to show you on the bigger map so that you can actually see the entire development. So this is what the whole development looks like. This is my property here, and this is the main road here. So you can see there's only 4 properties that front onto the main road, and the developer created this street. So the street comes up, and then it comes down behind my property, and then comes around this big hilltop property here. So it's this piece of land right here that they have already enclosed their property. So what's happened is the surveyor came back and actually remeasured their property, and they've encroached onto this road by 1.3 meters, which is quite a bit. So after I, told the developer what was going on, about 6 hours later, I get a message from him saying, Leah, can you meet me back at the property at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon? And I know in my mind, there's only 2 solutions to this problem. A, the guy tears down his wall, which is very expensive and a huge pain in the neck. Or B, I sell them this piece of property that he's now infringed on. So going into this conversation, knowing that, obviously he wants to have a conversation with me, so he's hoping that option B, in my mind, is what he's going to talk to me about. So I did a quick calculation of what 1.3 meters would be off the entire meterage of the back piece of the property, and it worked out to be 28 square meters. So that was $2,000 is what that would have been the price of what I paid. I have no idea what they paid per square meter. I know what I paid. So, and that was 2 years ago. So the value of the land has gone up. I have no idea what that land would sell for today. I've never had any need to do any kind of appraisal on it. But I thought, for me, $2,000 to, not have to remove this giant wall that he's put up sounded like a pretty good payment to me. So I met with the developer, and sure enough, that was exactly what he wanted to ask was, would I sell them the piece of land? And technically I'd be selling it to the developer, because technically this guy has infringed on the developer's land, which is the road. So I said yes for $2,000 US. And of course he's coming back and he's like, well, that's not fair. That's more than what they paid. And I only want to go back to them and ask them for the amount of money and for the little tiny bit that, you know, that they're infringing for. And I said to him, look, this means having to go back to a lawyer, having to resurvey the property, having to get new plans done up. I said, it's not just, oh, here's a couple $100 for your problem. And he, you know, his response, well, you know, they're in the United States, they hired somebody and they weren't here, and you know, it's not really their fault. And it's like, dude, it is their fault. If they decide to buy a piece of land in a foreign country and not be here for construction, or not have a maestro or a head contractor that they can trust, then that's not on me. Like, my whole point to the developer yesterday, you know, all his pleading and, you know, cajoling was, look, dude, like, none of this is my problem. I mean, I have a guy lined up for Monday to come and start digging this trench for me to build my wall. I can go ahead and do that. I could go ahead and build my wall right in the middle of the road, and legally I have every right to do that. And now the problem would be squarely on those two. So if they want me to help, then they're going to have to negotiate this. So the developer said, he said, well, Leah, I'm not going to ask him for that much money. I said, well, that'll be a mistake, because I'll be asking you for that much money. So, and then literally I just turned around and got in my car and drove away at that point. So we'll see what happens. I mean, if anybody has ever done any negotiating with me, then you'll know that I can't be pushed into doing something that isn't fair and isn't correct. This is a piece of property that I had no plan to sell. I have no need to sell. They need me to sell it. So if they need me to sell it, they're going to pay me $2,000 US for it. Whether they think that's a fair price or not, that's neither here nor there. That's my price. So we'll see what happens at the end of the day when they come back. But it has stopped me from putting in this trench. I mean, I'm not going to sort of trench the rest of the property and then have the guy come back another day. It's just a waste of time to do that for when he brings the equipment. So it's going to delay me. And the other delay is the developer is now leaving for Barcelona for 10 days. So, you know, I may be delayed a little bit longer than I even want, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I may just go ahead and start building my wall. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. Peace out.